The whole arena. Yeet. Yeet, yeet, yeet your motherfucking ass yeet.
And we are live once again. God, man, I really gotta get hang of this StreamYard thing. We are back once again for another Friday Night Flagship. I am Jack Gaffney. I am joined once again by the coach, our other coach, Coach Kenny, back once again. Kenny, we were talking earlier. Basement renovations going on. We're doing good.
Oh yeah.
How we feeling?
Feeling good. It's been a couple weeks off the show. I know we've had some issues with everything, but getting the basement ready, getting the man cave back in shape. So we'll be back down there soon. I'm back in the original office, and it's just as cluttered as ever. But we're good to roll. How about you, Jack?
I'm doing good, but I want to get back to because we were talking earlier as well about a new jersey display case. I actually thought was kind of interesting. What can you tell us about that?
So, and I'll show it live on the show once it's finally done and ready to roll. But it's going to look a little like a standard closet with a nice glass door to it. And the goal is to have 3 tiers: outside, inside, in the middle, and then again on the bottom have another tier. Basically, a display for all of the jerseys that I have. It may not hold all of them. I'm going to be 100% honest. I have vastly miscalculated my count of jerseys. I may be well over the 600 mark. Don't tell the wife. But we're working on it. We're trying to make sure that it's going to look nice and pristine. It's going to have a nice little LED display too. It's going to change colors. So it's going to look sick when it's done.
Dude's rock. Dude's absolutely rock. But there are dudes in this life, Kenny, that don't rock, believe it or not. As the title of our show tonight would suggest, which is Everybody Hates Eric DeCosta. Eric DeCosta, the GM of the Baltimore Ravens, has gotten himself with some hot water over the last, let's call it 10 days, give or take. I think most know by now the Maxx Crosby trade that is now not. He was in Baltimore, I believe, on Monday, getting his physical. And then the news came out later that night that that trade, which was for 2 first-round draft picks, null and void just days before the start of the new league year. And, of course, we're, I believe, 3 days now into the new league year. And, oh, buddy, this has caused quite the stir. And I will give the quote here that he gave, I believe, on Wednesday. And again, a lot of people seem to really think, and I not even think, I think people justifiably believe that this was a case of the Ravens getting cold feet. And I believe Diana Rossini of The Athletic kind of alluded to that most of the league is pretty steadfast in their belief that the Ravens kind of just got cold feet in the late stages of this move. But and we were also talking pre-show, but they were talking about the idea they wanted both Maxx Crosby and Trey Hendrickson, which we both kind of agree was a complete lie. But we also did some research. Apparently, they had enough cap space to do it, or they still do. Obviously, that's by the wayside now. But
yeah,
where were you when this news of the trade getting rescinded dropped?
Yeah, I was in the car and I saw it because I was actually excited. I was about to get a new Ravens jersey because I love the Ravens jersey. I love their aesthetic, and I'm a huge Maxx Crosby fan. As long as he doesn't go to Green Bay, I'll always be getting a Maxx Crosby jersey. So I was really excited for that. And then the news breaks that they've actually nullified the trade, and it's a bit shocking to me because, right, like we were talking pre-show, it's vastly understood that he's probably mid-June, July for a return. The knee is always a questionable injury, especially for defensive linemen. But at the end of the day, that's one of those, I feel like shouldn't be a deal breaker. I feel like in the past we've seen teams renegotiate the compensation package for that, maybe reduce the number of first round picks, add in a 2 and a 3 for compensation wise. But to completely kill the deal is a bit shocking to me. Those are usually the character issue deals that you start to see when that happens. Which we know Maxx Crosby has everybody's got demons. They all got their things in their closets and stuff. But he is open and he's out front about what his issues are. He is open and upfront about how he tackles those kinds of deals with his personal life. And I think he's an outstanding person. So it was very shocking to me. I was very surprised and a little devastated by that one.
Yeah, I mean, I have a healthy respect for the Ravens. I'm not going to sit here and say I like the Ravens, but I actually would have been pretty interested to see how that relationship would have unfolded. But my thought initially was like, if this thing got nullified, the medicals must have been like so unbelievably bad. But again, the way people are talking around the league, it just sounds like, yeah, it's a standard knee procedure. He's going to be good by, maybe the beginning of the summer, which is like incredible. Again, we saw something like this, not exactly like this with this caliber of a player. Because again, Maxx Crosby is one of like the 5 best edge rushers in football. We saw something similar to this in the NBA last year at the trade deadline with the Hornets and Lakers. I believe it was the Mark Williams and Dalton Connect trade that got nullified, I think, multiple days after the trade deadline because of a failed physical by Mark Williams.
Yeah.
Like, you don't see, like, again, you alluded to this, the idea of like renegotiating on compensation on deals like this. Those are like the only 2 situations where I can remember like a trade just being completely nullified.
Yeah.
And the weird thing here is, it's like, this happened days before like the league window officially opened, because there's the legal tampering period, and this was a little before that. So I have to imagine there's going to be some sort of like languaging rule next year where like they're going to completely get rid of the legal tampering window or something, because of something like this. Like, this can't happen ever again.
Right. And I think that might actually help the league, because I feel like the inertia around the league is to actually get rid of that legal tampering window, because it's just it causes a lot of issues when you really look down and you start to study how these deals are being made and these free agent openings are happening. So I'm sure Goodell and the league offices are probably really maybe excited for this nullification, because then this will set the precedent for, hey, we can't do this again. We can't, get the trade across almost nearly to the finish line. I would say it was actually across the finish line. If the player's in Baltimore doing the physical, I think the deal should be pretty much done. But yeah, I think this is going to be a good
Instagram story. He was like literally like outside the stadium in the hospital, like 20 stories up.
Yeah. So I mean, it's crazy to sit there and think that, and to see how this deal has evaporated into nothing. And I think it's even more devastating for the Raiders, because everybody starts making adjustments to, okay, we've traded Maxx Crosby, now we need to start looking for a new edge rusher. We need to start making some moves here. And now you've got Crosby back in your lap with the cap hit. I mean, I think there should be some sort of compensation going to the Raiders too for this. Maybe some sort of compensatory picks in next year's draft, something like that, to alleviate this issue that they now have.
If Bill Belichick did this in like 2012, they would have hauled him in front of like the UN Security Council.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what's Buddy's name? The cannibal. Series of guy who's like the cannibal, like, murderer.
Oh, the movie, the Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah, Hannibal Lecter. They would have wheeled him in front of the UN Security Council like Hannibal Lecter if he ever did this.
Oh yeah.
100%. I'm convinced. But like, yeah, they have to do something about the legal tampering period. But like, in fairness, at the same time, the only time I can really remember like something like even close to this happening in the confines of the NFL, I don't know if you remember this, 2015 with Frank Gore, when he signed the deal with the Eagles, got cold feet, and then ended up going to the Colts. I think it was after they had signed Andre Johnson. He's like, hey, wait a minute.
Yeah.
And ultimately, in fairness, that did work out pretty well for him. That Colts team was good until they weren't, because Luck got hurt, because of course he did. And the other thing for the Raiders, which is not the worst, outside of the fact they kind of have a little bit of a surplus of edge rushers now that they probably weren't expecting, they're still like $40 million over the cap. So for now, they're fine. But obviously, again, if you're John Spytek and everyone in that front office out in Vegas, you were 100% under the assumption that you were going to be going into, the remainder of this offseason, with an extra first round pick. That would have been 14th, I believe.
Yeah. Yep.
Which in this draft, that would have been a huge deal for a Raiders team that still has some needs in the secondary. And also, we'll get to the Raiders as it relates to their free agent haul. Spoiler, was pretty damn good. And that's just gone now. Now, never a bad thing to have Maxx Crosby, and it seems like he's keen to stay. But like, it's a very, very odd situation.
Yeah, I think, and if you're looking at it, are the Raiders dead set on moving him? Because now if you're going to try and move him from here, it's going to be exceedingly low. Like you are not going to get anywhere near the compensation that the Ravens were offering or agreed to even. And so, they now even the trade bait is going to take a huge hit, and it's going to be much more challenging just to get a new deal done. So now you going to eat that Maxx Crosby salary and all of that goes with it, and hope that which we all agree he should be ready to go. Is he going to be prepared for the start of the season? So it gets to be very tricky down there in Vegas. We'll see what happens.
Again, it's a good problem to have, but it's still a problem. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not the worst thing in the world. Oh yeah, we have Maxx Crosby. You know what I mean? But still, obviously, you weren't preparing for it in a very weird roundabout way. But I mean, that was just an incredible story. Everything about that. Again, DeCosta. I got a guy who I can't prove it. I feel like there's people that know me who know this. He has absolutely wiretapped my phones. He has continuously drafted guys that I have been high on for the last 6 years. That has gone down to guys who have even. Well, I'm gonna say he jinxed guys like Jalen Armour-Davis, who they drafted, I think, in the 5th round back in 2022. I'll never get over that. I called that they were going to draft him on a live stream elsewhere. And sure enough, they drafted him, Kenny. Sure enough. I'll never forget that. I'll never forgive him.
He's got you tapped, huh?
He does. He has all my electronics taps. He knows my IP. I don't like it. We got to do something about this guy. And speaking of doing something with this guy, that's what the city of Toronto is saying to Anaheim Ducks player Radko Gudas, because we were talking about this earlier as well. This literally dropped 20 minutes ago. Austin Matthews, the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs, who are in what can only be described as a season from hell. They just won their first game since the Olympic break last night against the Anaheim Ducks. That was their first win since February the 3rd. It only came at the cost of Austin Matthews, as you can see by this statement here by the Maple Leafs dropped, I want to say around 7:30-ish. He is done for the season after taking a knee-on-knee hit from Radko Gudas. Again, a grade 3 MCL tear, quad contusion. He is done for the season. And now, the other part about this that's really fascinating, Kenny, they do not own their first-round draft pick this year. Do you know who does? Of all teams.
I don't. Is it the Bruins?
It is the Boston Bruins.
Yeah.
It is the Boston Bruins as a result of a trade they made last year. I believe it was Brandon Carlo for a first that is top 5 protected. Fraser Mitten, who is 5th on the Bruins in goals, 2nd in plus minus. And I believe somebody else. I don't remember who the third leg of that trade was, but they are in some deep crap right now.
Yeah.
I believe I just checked Tankathon, I think just before we entered the call. That pick right now would be 7th. That would transfer to Boston. If not, if that pick does go to top 5, it'd be a 2028 first because the Maple Leafs do not own their first rounder next year. I believe it's the Flyers that do.
I think so.
Not
that sounds true.
Sure. Yeah, I'm not sure what trade that would have been, but
was that the Stolers trade, maybe?
Yeah, probably. Actually, that's a good shout. But I mean, season from hell from them. Toronto Maple Leafs, man. I don't know how much you've been.
They were already up against it, right? They were already, talking. They had, you listen to them all the time about how they, getting ready to rally, and then the season never really kicked off for them. It's just been one minor slip up after another. The goaltending has been slightly suspect most of the season. Then you've got a spattering of injuries, and now the major one. You lose your captain, you lose, arguably the best player on the team right now to a major injury like that, and it's got to be devastating for the Maple Leafs, and it's you start to feel for their fans because they are.
Let's not go that far.
I know you're a big rival of theirs. Their original 6 like Chicago, but you have to start to feel bad for them because how many first round exits do you have? And now we're talking they're not even going to make it to the first round of the playoffs. You lose your captain. I mean, you start to feel bad for those boys in blue, just a little bit, just a little bit. I know as a Bruin fan, you're not going to, but just a tad bit. If it happened to Detroit, I would have no love lost. I get it. So,
incredible. But I will say, they do play the the Ducks again at the end of this month, Kenny, on the 30th. So I'm very excited to see what's going to happen in that game. I assume we're going to get at least... If the Maple Leafs don't drop the gloves on the opening faceoff, just go home. Go home.
Yeah. Well, if it was back in the 90s and maybe even the early 2000s, we all know what would happen. It would be a true Donnybrook right at the beginning of that game. But
yeah, Ty Domi would have came off from the bench.
Yep. Well, they had what? They had Brian McCabe and McCabe's kids there now too, right? So maybe
I just call it Maxx Domi too. I'm not positive. Yeah. They might still have Maxx Domi.
Right, and so maybe there'll be a little bit of that. But it's a new league era, and I'm not sure that we're going to get the true fight that we're expecting. But it's going to be interesting. Anaheim's got a price to pay. I think they may want to bench the guy that did it. I forget, was it Gudis or something like that? Yeah. They may want to be a healthy scratch that night because I don't know if he's getting out of that barn healthy.
I want to look this up. I heard earlier today that he's not getting an in-person hearing for that hit. I don't know if you saw it. It was really bad.
Yeah, no, I did. I saw the highlight of it. And I saw him laying on the ice, which is never a good thing. And then I paid attention, saw that it was finally they came forward with exactly how bad of an injury it was, but I didn't see the actual contact. So,
yep, I see it now. Spinning chicklets. Yep, telephone hearing, max suspension of which is only 5 games. So, I can imagine if I'm a Maple Leafs fan like our good friend Chris Gallagher, I'm not particularly thrilled this evening, but again, season from hell. Again, hate to see it. Obviously, you don't want to see Matthews get hurt, but obviously, you do hate to see it. Truly, for such a a truly great franchise like the Toronto Maple Leafs. Truly, again, no sarcasm here at all. But we're kind of going fast and furious here. We're gonna now go to the World Baseball Classic, which has been going on over the last couple of weeks here. We gotta talk about this Mark DeRosa stuff, man. Yeah. This guy, this clown from MLB Network, this somehow just is managing one of the greatest baseball teams ever assembled, and he somehow does not know the rules of the World Baseball Classic, and goes into the final game of pool play, somehow not knowing that if they lost that game, they were at risk of getting bounced in pool play. You saw this? You see this?
Yeah.
Oh my fucking!
It's tragedy, and I'm not really sure who let him have the reins of that team, but it's embarrassing, and it's baseball's such an interesting sport too when it comes to these kinds of tournaments, right? Because you have rosters. The U.S. roster is just fully loaded with MLB talent, and then I think it was was it Czechia or some European countries throwing out a plumber.
Yeah, Czech Republic. They had a dude who took PTO to pitch in the Tokyo Dome.
Right. I mean, that's crazy. It's really crazy to see how this is lining up, and then to see the U.S. really in dire straits with a lot of what's going on. But that's kind of how it's going. And I've always questioned with the World Baseball Classic how invested is the U.S. roster. You're supposed to be gearing up for the Major League season. It's technically happening during your spring training. How invested are we really in trying to solidify a championship here? And I think the U.S. has won one, but Japan kills it every single time, it seems like. So it's a tournament is what I will say.
Like I totally get that. Like most of these teams are probably not going to allow one of their managers to manage Team USA. You're telling me we care so little about the World Baseball Classic in comparison to these Caribbean teams and these teams out in Asia? They have a guy who basically works on high heat with Mad Dog Chris Russo.
Yeah.
Managing one of the greatest assemblances of talent in the history of baseball.
It'd be like the 99
and he lost to a bunch
roster.
of Americans playing for Team Italy.
That was the other thing I was upset about. How are we allowing kids from Michigan and what was it, California to play for
Team Italy?
And you can't even get I don't know, why can't
play for Team Italy?
Why can't you get? I would at least like AJ Przinsky to manage the U.S. roster or Mark Burley to manage the U.S. roster. Give me a good retired player who may or may not be invested in managing a team. Somebody who has a goddamn clue, Kenny. Yeah. It's kind of embarrassing right now.
I was honestly, they almost lucked out because I felt like this wasn't really being talked about nationally. It was being talked about here locally on Boston Sports Radio to the point that they were just like, we hope that like Mexico wins or like Italy wins like a low scoring game. Embarrassing. And they were like swabbing clips, I guess, of like the Rosa interview on what was it, MLB Today?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh my god.
It's brutal. It is. It's a shame. And right. And how many college rosters do we have in the United States? How many, like, you could have pulled from almost anybody. Granted, right? We just said MLB rosters probably not going to give up their manager for this, but come on. You're telling me Dusty Baker doesn't want to come out of retirement and manage a roster like this? Like, come on, give me somebody. Yeah, no.
Who was buddy that he was the manager of the I think the US when they won in 18?
Yeah. Oh.
Manager of the Rangers. No, Leland.
Yeah.
You're telling me you could have thrown Jim Leland in the bag to just come out and just manage like 10 games?
Give us something, Give me Jeff Bagwell. Give me somebody, because Puerto Rico has Pujols managing the roster, doesn't it? So we could have pulled in, we could have pulled somebody.
Apparently not. Again, the guy who fills in for Mad Dog Chris Russo on weekends was the best guy that we could get for the World Baseball Classic.
Yeah.
And
how do you not just hit the start button for that, right? Like, how do you not just sit there and say, okay, I've got one of the best rosters ever assembled, right? It looks like a mid-90s Yankees roster. Let's just plug and play and let them go out and have some fun. And nope, couldn't do that. We're just sitting there spinning our wheels. That's terrible.
I couldn't. He said going into that Italy game, this is a game we want to win, but we know where our tickets punched. So we're just going to play a bunch of guys that I think he put in Paul Goldschmidt to start at first base because, like, I'm pretty sure DeRosa and him are friends. It's like,
yeah, save that for beer league.
What are we doing, man?
Save that for your beer league softball team. Like, we got some, we're trying to win a major tournament here. There's no baseball in the Olympics, right? This is, for all intents and purposes, there's no obviously like World Cup. This is the closest thing they have to a major world tournament, and you're going out there and laying an 8 against Italy. I mean, come on, that's just terrible. It's just brutal.
You lost to a bunch of guys. Like you lost. You went down 8-0 to a bunch of guys who will probably never step foot in Italy in their entire lives.
Yeah.
If you had to tell half the people on that team to point out the island of Sicily on a map,
not in a million years.
Zero chance, Kenny. Zero.
And I love my guy Kyle Teal, but no, he's not pointing out Sicily on a map. That's for sure.
not a fucking chance. Unbelievable. But okay, maybe if these guys do, maybe if these guys say, hey, you know what? One of these days, I would love to retire in Italy. You know what those guys are going to need, Kenny?
Some good insurance.
That's exactly right, Kenny. Exactly.
Erie Insurance says here's to the grown-ups who move, mortgage, mow, and still bust a move. But does your home insurance still fit? Erie helps you protect the home you've grown into, all at fair prices that are often less than the other guys. So how do you find the right coverage? Magic. Nope. Local independent agents who get to know you like this.
Your local Erie agent is Building Block Insurance Group. Get a quote today at 704-464-4544.
Erie Insurance.
Jeff Retepny, what a guy. Unbelievable. Again, he helped me. He helped. I saw him walk a couple of this nice old ladies across the street the other day. That's crazy.
He's a beaut, that's for sure.
I didn't see this, but I was told in confidence that he saved like a ton of puppies in a old school basket floating down the river. That's what they said. That's not what I said. That's what they said. They saw Jeff Retepny doing that. Now imagine what he could do for you on some good home insurance rates.
Right.
Incredible guy.
Yeah, like I said, he's a legend for sure.
Well, speaking of legends, Bam Adebayo, 83 points in an NBA game. Now the second most all time. And I'm going to say second really loosely because the guy who's ahead of him scored 100 in, 1963, and there's no video evidence of that. The only evidence we have of that is him holding up a paper that just says 100 like this, literally just like this. Yeah, so in my mind, really the all-time record for points scored in a game, unfortunately, I will say, is by Bam Adebayo, because there's two ways I look at this, Kenny. On one hand, he scored like 40 points on free throws. I don't know if you saw this, but I was locked into this in the fourth quarter when they were playing the Heat were playing the Washington Wizards.
Okay.
He shot like 45 free throws and got like 40 points off of them.
That helps.
Completely unethical. But,
Helps.
however, a ton of Kobe stands are pissed.
Oh yeah. Well, you have to be, right? I mean, if anybody goes for the record and they beat your guy, you're gonna get pissed. You know, as a non-basketball fan, I'm pissed for Kobe. You know, because he's a legend. He's in my opinion second best player ever. So it's tough.
My thing is though is like what was he, a charity case, or are we supposed to take him out of the game? Like if he's like, I get like at some point he definitely was stat padding, but at the same time, it's like how many chances is Bam Adebayo, a guy who is I think a career 15-point per game guy, gonna ever have the chance to do that again?
No, you have to. You have to go for it, and I get it. And right, I wouldn't have benched him either, and I'd keep throwing him the ball too. Right, keep passing it to him, keep seeing what he can do with it. You know, the 40 points on free throws, that's a little, you know, it is.
Yeah, and they're like
is.
fouling to like get more possessions.
Right. I mean, and
Which is
that's one of the things that I don't necessarily agree with on basketball. But you know, again, that's the sport they play. That's how they play it nowadays. So those things are going to happen. So good for him. He was able to, you know, secure that record, or, you know, what, second place officially on the record. But yeah, it's, you know,
Unofficially second.
yeah, we'll call it unofficial second. But it's yeah, it's a shame to see Kobe's record go down. You know, record go down a little bit, but you got to go for it, right? I mean, I think I wouldn't pull any punches. I'd be going for it myself if I was in that position. You know, especially like you said, Brett. He's on average 15 points per game. You got to throw out some.
Yeah, for a career. I think he's like 18 and a half.
Yeah.
Probably higher than that now, obviously, for very obvious reasons.
For all
But,
intents and purposes.
yeah. But like I think even Eric Spoelstra was like, yeah, I don't apologize for anything, which is like real. I totally get that.
Yeah.
But like I hate this mentality that we have to like respect Kobe Bryant. It's like, what? You think if Kobe Bryant was still alive in here with us right now, you think he would be like, no, man, you gotta lay off, man. No, I'm not even a Kobe fan.
He'd probably be coming out of retirement to try and beat the record again.
Yes.
You know,
You think Kobe Bryant would be like, man, actually, we should not try to hunt for records. We should not try to be great.
right? No, that was his whole mantra, was to, you know, be as good as he could be and be better than anybody else. So,
Oh. I mean, in fairness, man, I'm not gonna sit here and act like I'm the biggest basketball guy these days. Celtics, yes, but basketball, no. But nevertheless, I know. Just this is a really random tie-in, but I know All Elite Wrestling is in the Staples Center tomorrow. If there's not one heel that comes out in a Bam Adebayo jersey, what are we doing?
right?
What are we doing?
The real question is, can you find a Bam Adebayo jersey? Like that's got to be the tricky part at this point.
Honestly, I wouldn't be shocked. I imagine there has to be like an NBA store out there. Anyway, there has to.
I mean, in LA, yeah, I'm sure there probably is.
Yeah, if someone's not making an entrance in a Bam,
And if anybody at AEW is connected to Fanatics, I'm sure that can happen, you know, real quick.
has to happen. I'll be very disappointed if it doesn't. It would be very funny. And someone should spit on the Pat Riley statue, just in general. That doesn't have to be at that show. That could just be in general. Fuck
As long as it happens, right?
Pat Riley. Now, at long last, we can get to the real main event of tonight's show, NFL free agency, which kicked off unofficially with the legal tampering period on Monday. We were up bright and early for this one, and we got right into the thick of things immediately with the very technically the first move. I wouldn't technically call it a free agent move, but the re-signing of Alec Pierce, who, by all accounts, sounded like he was gone up until now he re-upped with the Colts. Definitely like that for Indy. I don't know how much I love $29 million a year for him, but it seems he will go even further, and he took a hometown discount.
Yeah, it's good. Definitely good for the Colts. Definitely happy that they were able to make that deal, make that work for them. I think it's a little steep, but if it's a hometown discount, that's impressive. But yeah, ultimately good move. I think both sides are going to end up being happy with that. I think it's definitely something the Colts can continue to build on. they had a very surprising year this year in terms of what I think what anybody was really expecting and what they were able to put out
Yeah.
until the injury bug really got to them. So maybe now they can start building onto something big. We might be seeing a resurgence of the Indianapolis Colts, which I would be a fan of. I've always been very what's the word? I've always been very impressed by what the Colts can do, considering they're kind of a smaller market team when you really think about it. So good on them.
Yeah, they're going to be sharing the Indiana market here pretty soon.
Yeah, right.
Um,
We'll see.
I guess
We'll see. I don't know.
I guess we'll start with the Colts since we brought them up. They also brought in edge rusher Arden Key, 2 years, $20 million. Michael Clemens, who was I believe he's a tweener, can play a little inside, but is mainly an edge guy, formerly of the Jets at 3 years and 17. However, they did lose a decent amount of names here as well. Also, they re-upped with Daniel Jones. I believe it was 2 years and $80 million.
Weird deal.
Did have some notable losses. They did lose Kwity Paye to the Raiders. They lost left tackle Braden Smith to the Texans, and safety Nick Cross, who kind of lined up a little bit of everywhere for them. No, free safety, a little bit of linebacker in the slot. He ended up going to the Washington Commanders, and I believe they also lost Samson Ebukam as well. So kind of a mixed bag for them so far. But I like what they've done for the most part, and in theory, this is a decent tackle draft, so I imagine you could probably get a Braden Smith replacement maybe in round 2, because again, they don't have the first round there because it's Sauce Gardner trade. And I feel like Ballard is a bit of a mixed bag when it comes to drafting. But I feel like when he hits on guys, he typically does. And Indy, I think historically has been really good drafting on the offensive line. So I imagine they'll figure something out. I'm not super worried about them.
Yeah, I think the Colts are putting themselves in a pretty decent position. We always talk, who's winners, who's losers. I think right now you have to give them that slight edge as in terms of winning the free agent market. Like you said, you lose a considerable amount of talent, but we're seeing the Colts. I think they're trying to build towards something bigger, and when they hit in the draft, it's very impressive when they do hit on that, and it's not quite feast or famine, but when they feast, they're definitely in the right spot for it. So I'm waiting to see what they can do in April. We'll see.
Exactly right. And speaking of what teams may do in April, which is not super, I think it's kind of clear what they're going to be doing in April. But the Oakland Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders. I will always get that wrong until the end of the time. The Raiders,
be honest, they should still be in Oakland.
They should be. They have come out fast and furious, and the theme has been mainly defense, but obviously the big story with the Raiders outside of the Maxx Crosby stuff, they completely reset the center market by nearly $10 million, giving Tyler Linderbaum a 3-year, $81 million deal, $27 million AAV. That is $9 million higher than what the Chiefs are paying Creed Humphrey. A complete reset, which brings, I think, the center market pretty much on par with the guards now, which is interesting. That's also not all what they've done. Of course, they brought in Kwity Paye, like we mentioned. Completely reinvented the linebacker room with Quay Walker and Nakobe Dean. Really big fan of the Nakobe Dean signing. And they also brought in number 3 receiver from the Minnesota Vikings, Jalen Naylor, at 3 years and a tick over $35 million a year. Of course, they have also lost. Unfortunately, how can you move forward without Kenny Pickett, Kenny? How can you?
It's devastating, isn't it?
Devastating. At the Super Bowl champion.
Yeah, it's brutal. But
he took victory formation in the Super Bowl. You can't teach that.
No, that's innate ability right there. That's exactly what you come into the league knowing how to do that kind of thing, and you can't trade away or you can't give up that kind of talent. But here we are.
That's exactly right, Kenny.
I'm very, very happy that we're resetting the center market, being a lineman myself. I think it's very crucial that these guys, the big boys, start to get paid, because let's be honest, they're doing the Lord's work. They're protecting the quarterbacks. And it's probably, I get the skill positions are called skill positions for a reason, but if you're paying your quarterback millions and millions of dollars, you need to keep him healthy, right? Cincinnati, you guys paying attention yet? It's time to start paying the offensive line what they're due. So good for the Raiders.
Yeah, I agree. And the reason I really like this is not Humphrey, Linderbaum, really good zone blocker, and obviously they're going to be running a ton of that with Clint Kubiak, and never a bad idea to give a future number 1 overall pick in Fernando Mendoza, one of the steadiest centers in the game. And I think he's going to be a really big part of what they do in both the pass blocking and run blocking game. And again, they definitely need a better year, I would say, out of Ashton Genty. Can't really go wrong with getting yourself, a top of the line center. I would say at the absolute worst, the 5th best center in the game. Interesting that they felt this comfortable completely resetting the center market by this much, really. But I think eventually you were definitely going to see the centers kind of get closer to the guards sooner or later. And the Raiders just said, hey, let's just do it now.
Yeah. Let's just reset that whole market now. And it's a good experiment with Linderbaum, right? Because he's like you said, he's a top 5 center in the league. You might be able to argue a top 3, maybe some years. But yeah, this is definitely the moment the Raiders took that opportunity, because honestly, if it wasn't the Raiders, it may have been somebody else that was ready to pay for that. And, they jumped on it and they took that risk, and they do. The centers deserve as much love as the guards. Maybe, my opinion, clearly sitting in a suburban house or whatever, but my opinion doesn't mean a whole lot. Here we go with the fact that centers deserve everything. I think the center is probably, besides left tackle, the toughest position in the NFL to play. So yeah, they definitely deserve that money.
Well, of course, the Raiders had plenty of money to burn, and another team that had a lot of money to burn was the Carolina Panthers, who I'll say I like most of what they've done, even if some of the price tags I don't love, and that obviously starts with them giving Jalen Phillips, who I believe his market value was projected to be at the absolute most like $19 million. The Carolina Panthers said, we're going to give him $30 million a year with pretty extensive injury history at 4 years and $120 million. I saw this. I almost fell out of my chair. As someone who loves Jalen Phillips, by the way, I was a big fan of him coming out of the University of Miami. And even in his first couple of years before, I think it was the ACL and the Achilles. And my thing here with Phillips is not necessarily the player, because actually, the only real issue I would say, I believe he was 12th in the league in pressures last year, around like 60 or so. His big problem is that he didn't really convert a ton of pressures to sacks. And you look at the guys in that range now, like 30 million and up, they all can do that for the most part. The only guy who really can't, and it was really just for this year, was TJ Watt. Now it's really just a 1 year thing, and that who knows where he looks, going forward. But, guys in that range, we're talking Bootstraps Bosa, we're talking Myles Garrett, Aiden Hutchinson, guys who are going to be able to finish. Paying a guy $30 million you don't really know is going to be a reliable finisher, and with his injury history, that definitely concerns me.
Yeah, it's a risk. It's a gamble, right? And that's this time of year where you start to. It's always interesting. I've always been fascinated by the free agent market, because you see this. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to make this kind of move, to spend this kind of money on this track record. And it's, every once in a while this move pays off, but typically, usually the Bears are the team that does this. It backfires horribly, horribly wrong, and it proves why front office manager, they need to have a revolving door, because they need to be fired just as quickly as they're hired. I think some of these moves are ridiculous, and I think that this is going to be the marquee example in 2026 how this is the wrong move, wrong price.
Now, obviously, I hope it does work out, because I am a fan of the player, but obviously just clearly the biggest overpay, I would say, of the cycle so far.
Yeah.
Now we're going to get into what's probably my favorite move of free agency so far. Carolina is a team that desperately needed help in linebacker. Last year, they had probably one of the worst linebacker rooms in the league. And they get one of the best in the league at just $15 million in Devin Lloyd. I love this signing for the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, that's good on the Panthers for that. That's very impressive. Completely shores up your linebacker room, makes you probably 10 times better than you were, just 10 games ago even. And then now the NFC South has to be scared, right? You have to be really, really nervous going up against the Panthers defense, where you probably had a softer middle before. Now you've got some real contention in there, and you have to start really planning around that. So good on the Panthers for that move.
Yeah, and really, the only real worry is that he hasn't played. I don't think he's ever played a full season, but like we're talking maybe like he's missed like 1 or 2 games at the absolute most for the most part. But I would be hard pressed to say
management coming in, so that's
in the league last year than Devin Lloyd. He had 5 picks. Of course, he had that big pick 6 for the Jags in that Monday night game against the Chiefs before we knew that they were, burnt toast. I don't believe his tackle numbers were especially the highest, but again, like having a guy who can essentially roam around the middle and just take, a decent portion of like in between the hashes out of the quarterback's hands, that's huge. Yeah. And they didn't have that last year. And the thing is with the Panthers defense, their secondary is fantastic. And I mean, obviously you have Derek Brown up front. You drafted a couple guys high last year off the edges, and now you have Phillips, who, again, in theory, if he is what you think he's going to be, that's going to be a pretty scary defense if everything goes according to plan, which in fairness, it might not. But best case scenario, you're talking one of the more interesting defenses across the league, I think.
Yeah, and it's definitely going to put them back into very serious contention for the NFC South. That's a division that is screaming for a true leader, a true team to come up and actually run the show for a little bit, because we always see, right, every year it seems to be who is it going to be this time? And I think now the Panthers might be making a statement. It's a big risk on both, on the defensive side a little bit, but if it pays off, you're talking a real threat to being a true NFC South contender, which is something I think we've been missing for a little bit.
And again, I think the one thing that I will give them, they at least made some effort last year to try to get Milton Williams. I wonder if this is like we're not even taking the chance this year.
And it could be. It could very well be. And maybe that's where you start to see the overpaying, right? If we missed on one guy, we missed on the guy we needed last year. Let's go after the guy we like this year and make sure we lock him up. That happens a lot too. And that's going to be, like I said, that's where you have that risk versus reward. We'll see on that return on investment if it pays off for them.
Also, this one came in today. They brought in Rasheed Walker at tackle at 1 year and $10 million. I imagine he's going to be a one and done rental because I believe it's Ike Ekwonu who's going to be more than likely out for this entire season with the patellar tendon injury, which is obviously huge. So, I mean, that's a 1 year deal. I don't hate that. I'm not exactly a Rasheed Walker guy. They were talking about him like he was going to get like 20 mil, which is like, yeah, all right, buddy. But at $10 million for a year, like it's whatever.
I think it's a good rental. I think that makes a lot of sense if you're trying to shore up that offensive line after a major injury like that. And that's really all they need him for is a year. And then if the rehab isn't working out, then you can kind of renegotiate and resettle that deal too, and make it more palatable. But yeah, I think this is it's a good deal for both sides. It's mid-range, so you'll be fine with that.
Yeah, exactly. Like if it works out, then that's a good problem to have. But if it doesn't, it's only a 1 year deal.
Right.
I will also note some of the guys they lost. They did have some notable losses. Of course, Rico Dowdle, who went to the Steelers. I'm a big fan of what that running back room out there in Pittsburgh is to look like with him and Jalen Warren. They lost center Cade Mays to the Lions, and they lost Ashawn Robinson to the Bucks. So not all good for them, but definitely not all bad. It's just kind of like with the Colts, I would say. It's a mixed bag. Kenny, I think it's time to get to your Chicago Bears.
Oof.
Who clearly I don't want to say the mandate, but the feeling was they felt very fine, completely, essentially resetting entirely in the secondary because Jaquan Brisker, gone. Kevin Byard, gone. Nashawn Wright, who was kind of a nice story for the Bears last year, gone. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, gone. And the centerpiece now, I think, for this secondary outside of why am I forgetting his name? Cornerback
Johnson.
Yes, they bring in a guy who was among, I'll say, one of the 5 best moves of this week so far, and that's Kobe Bryant, who was a massive part of what Seattle does defensively and what they did do en route to a Super Bowl. Again, you're talking about a guy who was again, huge part of why they were able to play 3 defensive backs, or 5 defensive backs.
Yeah.
Like, what was it, like a 90% clip?
Yeah, it was impressive what they were able to do. I obviously very disappointed in letting Brisker go. That was the move
I really thought you guys were going to keep him.
that was the thought. I think a lot of people thought that was going to happen. It got a little touch and go because the deal wasn't happening and there were some feelings that were being expressed. But ultimately, the fan base, and me included, were thinking that eventually Brisker was going to settle on a deal. We were going to pay him a little. He wasn't going to give us the hometown discount, which is fine, respectable. And we would lock him up for a little bit longer. And it never seemed to marinate, never seemed to formulate. And it's a blow, especially now he's going to Pittsburgh, and I think Pittsburgh lucked out on that deal. I think that he's going to do great for them. But to get a guy like Bryant, to be able to do, if we can do what Seattle was able to do, I think we're going to be 10 times better. I get it. The trade-off is going to be much better. The return on investment should be much better if this all pans out. You hate to see a guy like Brisker go because he was a leader in the locker room too, and that's something that you sorely need, especially with a young team like the Bears have.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like the fact that I think the deal he got from Pittsburgh, I think it was like 2 years and $9 million. That kind of at least would tell to me that the Bears weren't really super interested in bringing him back, which is fine if you can bring in guys that obviously are either equal to or better. And I think Kobe Bryant, at least based off these last couple of years, is in that category. Again, he's a guy who is really good downhill, working either against the run or on the blitz. Really good coverage guy, great around the ball. And I don't know how much people remember this. He was a huge part of that Cincinnati team that went to the college football playoffs and had Sauce Gardner on. He was just as big a part of that defense as he was. I believe
Gardner gets all the accolades, but Bryant was just a huge component to that Cincinnati team. Yeah,
that's exactly right. Who else did we bring in here for sure? Yeah, no one else really. They brought in Neville Gallimore, I believe, on the defensive line. They brought back Braxton Jones. They brought in Khalif Raymond, who I imagine is going to be a return guy for them.
Yeah, which we need. We sorely need that.
Of course, the DJ Moore trade as well, which I thought Chicago cleaned up phenomenal in that trade, if I'm going to be brutally honest.
Yeah. I definitely didn't hate the trade. I don't think we quite fleeced the Bills, so to speak. I know a lot of talking heads, really thought we burned Buffalo on that one. I don't know if we burned them, but we definitely cleared up some of that cap space, and we definitely moved on from a receiver that I think got us to a point, but I don't think that he was our answer in what we needed to do in the receiving core, especially in a room that's now getting overcrowded. You're talking about, Odunze should be getting ready to make that next step. Loveland has been not really a surprise, but I think the
more than people would have expected, I'm assuming.
Yeah. And so you're in this position where it's okay to move on from DJ Moore. He had that pass at the very last pass of the season that kind of he just gave up on the route, and it's like, well, seems to be.
I heard Bruce loved the effort on that play.
Yeah, it was. And that was one of the things too, where I was questioning it. When we first got him in the deal, I liked it, but I was kind of questioning the stick-to-itiveness of him. Is he going to stick with it? Is he going to, because this is a young and developing team. He's more, to me, I think he's a guy that needs an established offense to really shine. And he kind of had moments where he, was amazing, and then he's had moments like that where he just kind of gave up on the route. And it's a tell. To me, that was the tell that his time in Chicago was done. So I'm okay with the move. I think the Bills get a good receiver, not necessarily the best receiver, and we definitely got some capital out of that, which is what the Bears are always in need of.
I believe this is episode 9 of the Flagship since I took over, and we finally got a Simpsons reference, so I'm very happy about that. So thank you, Kenny. Shout out to our Principal Skinner, stick-to-itiveness, things of that nature. But who's still available do they have on the free agent market? I can't imagine much. Yeah, nothing really. And And now we get to a team that I think sneakily has had a pretty damn good offseason, as much as I hate to admit it. And that is the Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah, it's an uncomfortable truth. They have had a great offseason in my book. Of course, they didn't waste a ton of time. Once it was around like the 3 o'clock hour on the East Coast, they brought in Kenneth Walker, Super Bowl MVP, at 3 years and a little under $15 million a year. Again, running back was kind of a big need for them. They let Pacheco go, and he's now in Detroit, which I love that as well. But obviously, Kenneth Walker was clearly, I think, I don't know if he's necessarily the kind of back that would pay that kind of money, but he's definitely not super far off.
No, and I think Walker deserves most of that deal, right? He deserves most of that money. I more or less question, is he a good fit for the Chiefs' offensive scheme, right? To me, he's more of an up and down running back. He's not really, if I remember correctly, right, he wasn't the guy that was swinging out and catching the ball in the flats either. He was more of a ground-based running back. So to me, that's questionable for the Mahomes style of offense. But ultimately, the guy deserves to get paid. He deserves to go to another winning club. He deserves to, give his chance to shine. I would have liked to see him in a different offense other than the Chiefs offense, but I think ultimately he'll do fine.
I think he'll absolutely do fine. And I think one of the things he brought up in his opening presser was culture, and going to obviously a team that clearly has, a great history of winning. Also bring this up. He actually has over the last, he's mainly been like a 40 catch per year guy over the last 4 years. A lot of that is bulked up by 2024. We had 53, but he's basically a 40 catch per year guy, give or take. If it's overpaid, it's not by a ton. But I moved. I definitely like. They also made two
like the 10 to 12 range, so 15 is not terrible.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, he was Super Bowl MVP. You could do a lot more.
That's your extra $3 million right there.
Exactly. Now we're getting the two moves that I love, and one of them is begrudgingly because it directly hurts me, which is unforgivable. And we'll start with that one. Kyrus Tonga, the Tonga truck, if you will, from the New England Patriots, the 0-2 tech defensive lineman. If you're a Chiefs fan and by any rhyme or reason you get across this, you will love him. He will be a cult hero inside of, I'll say, 5 weeks. And you're going to love him lining up next to Chris Jones, one of the best run defenders in the NFL last year. He was huge for the Patriots. And I'm devastated to see him go. But I think the Chiefs will definitely get a lot of good uses out of him. That one absolutely devastated me. And they only got him at like $7 million a year. I would have absolutely paid that to keep him. Yeah, awesome player. Again, not a household name.
Makes you wonder what the Patriots were thinking on that, letting him go. If it's only $7 million a year.
So they had a deal allegedly during the playoffs. And then his camp was like, we're going to wait. And then, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
I definitely would have paid him. I think he's a great player, but I mean, in theory, I think I trust this version of the Patriots enough to kind of give him some leeway. And obviously, there's some 0-2 tech guys in this draft. They could potentially draft one as high as 31 with Caden McDonald or Lee Hunter. So we'll see how that goes. Another move that they made that I loved, a guy who was a huge part of what Baltimore was doing in the back half of the year. That's Alohi Gilman, safety who was originally played for the Chargers back in 2000 or at the beginning of 2025, goes in the Odafe Oweh deal. And of course, he signed a huge deal with the Commanders, left hand up. That's another clip I need to get into the StreamYard immediately.
Yes. Absolutely.
I got another move that I really liked for them. They brought back Tyquan Thornton of Patriots 2022 draft fame. Do not ask me about that draft class under any circumstances. 2 years and $11 million, and they paid jumbo slot receiver Travis Kelce 1 year and $12 million. Kenny, what do we got?
I thought we were moving on from Kelce. I thought Kelce was done, and here we are. We're giving him 1 year, $12 million. You said
1 year, $12 million.
I think that is absolutely ridiculously overpriced. What are we thinking here? I just don't get it. I I don't want to say he's washed up, but he's definitely not. He's about 2 to 3 steps slower than he used to be. I can't imagine. Yeah, that's a good. um, yeah, I mean, was that like a wedding gift for them? Like $12 million just to say thanks? Like I don't get it. Kansas City.
His soon-to-be wife with the richest woman in the world. Let's not talk about wedding gifts. They'll be just fine.
Yeah,
They're having a wedding in Rhode Island. They're fine.
like,
They're fine. Let's not.
does he?
Was he a
Does he
charity
need an extra
case?
season? You're right. Does he need an extra season to like prepare for his color commentary debut? Like I don't
Oh,
understand.
If I had to listen to Travis Kelce in a booth during an NFL game, Kenny,
I mean, like
it's over.
we got Tom Brady, we got Tony Romo. Let's get a little Kelsey action in the. Actually, no, I would.
I don't even like Romo now either.
We need Jason Kelsey in the booth is what we need. We don't need Travis Kelsey. Jason
I
Kelsey
actually
is the
like Jason
national.
Kelce on the Monday night countdown.
Yeah, yeah, but we need him in the booth though. I think we need him, side by side. Maybe not with Joe Buck, Jesus Christ, but it's we need Jason Kelsey in the booth somewhere. But yeah, I don't get the Travis Kelsey deal at all. Like you said, the Chiefs were killing it. I think you're arguing definitely a winner, and then some odd reason you're talking to a guy who's, for all intent purposes, has decided to retire. Yeah, you're gonna throw him an extra season. I don't know.
Yeah, throw him an extra season so they can run so they can just run sticks the entire season.
Yeah.
Where for some reason no one wants to just cover him when every single person in the stadium knows he's running a stick.
Yeah.
And just sitting down in the soft zone. Which is awesome. I think that's great that we have 31 DCs that have no clue how to defend the guy who's, like, in theory, the most easily defendable pass catcher in football. And no one knows how to do it, Kenny. He has no bag. And again, no one wants to do it, which is unbelievable. We're to get to our good friend Jeff Retepti one more time before we get to these last couple of teams, before we wrap it up. But again, if you need some car insurance, again, our guy Jeff Retepti is the guy for you.
Here's to the grown-ups. Your car is now your office, stage, nursery. Shh, sorry. Erie Insurance offers products that lots of other companies don't. That's a big deal, and it's a good deal, too. And with Erie, you get your own independent agent, not a giant corporate call center or some online robot. You meet with a real person, like this.
Your local Erie agent is Building Block Insurance Group. Get a quote today at 704-464-4544.
Erie Insurance.
Unbelievable guy. What a man. What an unbelievable man Jeff Retepti is. All right. We'll go over a few more teams here. It's now that the time of the night where we get to my New England Patriots, who, much to my surprise, have spent a little more than I thought they were going to. There was a worry here that they weren't really going to spend much at all, but that's clearly not the case. Again, their first couple moves are probably my favorite, and their first move happened, I think, maybe 10 minutes into free agency, getting Draymond Jones, who spent some time with teams like the Broncos, the Seahawks, the Titans, and then the Ravens last year. He's now in New England at 3 years and a little over $36 million per. I'm actually a pretty big fan of the signing from the standpoint that they can line him up pretty much anywhere from like 7 tech to 4 tech, and maybe even 3.
Yeah.
So, and that's, I mean, in theory, he's probably your Caleb Vaughn Chason replacement, but again, can never really go wrong with a guy who gives you options up front, especially if you can kick him inside. If you want to maybe get a little faster out on the edge. I know he's like 280, but big fan of that signing. Now we get to the real signing that I like. And again, if you don't like this signing, you don't like football. Fullback Reggie Gilliam, baby. You want to talk about Chills, brother. Chills, baby. Reggie Gilliam, 3 years, $10.8 million. And we just stole the heart of the Bills running game right from them. For $10 million, Kenny. $10 million. We just stole the heart of the Bills running game. Unbelievable.
You stole it right, and AFC East rival too at that. That's impressive. Good on you guys for that one. That's, if nothing else, you, like you said, you stole the soul of that offensive team, and that's devastating. I can't believe you guys were able to do that. There should be rules against signing rival players, but it is what it is. It's the league we live in. Gotta love capitalism. I think that's brilliant.
The Patriots have won several Super Bowls off of signing guys from directly off of AFC teams. AFC East teams.
Yes,
Chris Hogan. Chris Hogan, Wes Welker. Actually, Wes Welker didn't win a Super Bowl, but he got close. Who else? Damian Woody. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think so.
Stephon Gilmore. Again, all-time great AFC East coaches. Guys we will never forget. Also, a couple other notable signings. They brought in Elijah Vera Tucker, who did not play at all last year because of it was a triceps tear. I believe 6 days before week 1 started. But had a pretty damn good 2024. But obviously injuries with him have been the big story. Again, I believe a biceps tear, a triceps tear, and then an Achilles tear in 3 of the last 4 years. But in 2024, he was pretty damn good. They gave him $14 million per. Then we get to the 2 signings that I don't love necessarily. I don't hate. I think now that we're a few days past, I don't hate these signings. I just don't love them. Romeo Doubs of Packer fame, 4 years and $68 million. They were talking about this one like it was like 4 for $80. I was like, this is the worst signing ever. But at $68 million, that's a bit more agreeable. I don't love it still. Like he's a Diggs replacement. Yeah, he's a Diggs replacement, and I think at $17 million, I can live with that. And he'll be a fine player, I'm sure. And then there's Kevin Byard of Bears fame, reuniting with Mike Vrabel at 1 year and $9 million. I would have liked to have gone a bit younger at safety, which is definitely a need. And obviously, I know there's the Vrabel connection, but like, are you really banking on a guy who's going to be 33?
I wouldn't, but
be a pro guy again.
Yeah. But at least
I know
it's
you
a 1 year
speak on this.
deal.
It was phenomenal for the Bears last year.
Yeah. It's but is it consistency, right? Is he going to be able to continue to do that as he's continuing to age? So this isn't even like a prove it deal, right? Because you've got, I think you said it was 1 year, right? So you've got 1 year, $9 million. I think it's okay money for the 1 year, but I think if we're trying to do a prove it deal with a guy who's going to be, in his close to his mid 30s, and which is ancient in NFL standards, it's a risk. It's a huge risk. And I think it's something that the Patriots need to pay off immediately. And if he has a season like he had last year, sure, it'll work. But you, as New England, you guys need to start thinking of like longer term solutions at safety. And you're not going to get lucky enough to get up and get Caleb Downs, that's for sure. So I don't know.
Was it Emmanuel McNeil? Yeah, Emmanuel McNeil Ward. We have to cope.
Yeah,
we have to be delusional until he ends up going like 5 picks before the Patriots go at 31. But my thing is like, there's no way he's gonna be first team All Pro again. No chance. None. And I guess the only silver lining here is I think they still are gonna draft the safety pretty high, and they should anyway. Because like Craig Woodson was a guy who had a pretty iffy rookie year up until like the very end, and again he was phenomenal in that Super Bowl. And I'll say the week before as well in the AFC Championship game, but he's not really that kind of safety. They need a guy who can, I wouldn't say consistently, but be essentially what Devin McCourty was, like a steady presence in the back who can play, single high and be a even better guy in 2 shell. And I don't know what they're really expecting out of Byard at this point. I will also point this out because he did talk yesterday because they brought in all the major guys they signed. It didn't sound like he had a particularly big market. He said his preference was to stay with the Bears, but then if he didn't go back, his option was the Patriots, and here we are. But I don't know, man. I mean, I get it from this familiarity, continuity. I'll do the big part of those Titans team with Vrabel, but I don't know. Not a sign that I'm the most jazzed up about.
But hopefully he works out for you guys, because I think, like I said, he's a good personality. He's a good guy to have in the locker room too. Definitely gives you some of that veteran leadership, and like you said, the Vrabel connection, which I think is going to speak for itself. I think that's going to help out quite a bit. But yeah, I mean, you need a more long term solution than a 1 year, 33-year-old safety. So,
100% agree. All right, now we get to our final team, and hope everyone in the chat that's still here, hope everyone here has their left hands ready to go up, brought up, because we're going with the Washington Commanders, who, again, wasn't really expecting them to be a buyer at this level, but they were spending cash on all sorts of guys. They brought in Odafe Oweh and Caleb Von Chason to be their new edge rushers. They bring in Shigo Conquo at tight end, Leo Chenal at linebacker, Amik Robertson at corner, Nick Cross, who we kind of mentioned earlier, at safety. They brought in Rashad White at running back, Diami Brown, who's now back in Washington for a second stint at wide receiver. Marcus Mariota, the big man, is back at how old is he now? He's only 32?
Yeah.
I thought he'd for sure be older.
No, I think Bo Nix is older. I'm just kidding.
No, listen, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I think the Commanders are doing some big moves. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how it all plays out this year. And I think this is right. You're getting close to the end of the road with Jaden Daniels' rookie deal. So you got to start getting ready for, your big playoff push. I know. I think this is what year 3 for him. So not quite the end of the road. But you're getting yourself into a position where you have to start contending, or getting ready to pay him a huge sum of money, which you'd like to have some playoff experience with that. So, yeah, I think it's a good move. All good moves for the Commanders. Very happy for them right now.
Yep, get that left hand up. Get ready for the.
Get
up high, reach for that pen, and you're gonna write down about I believe it's 6 years, about $300 million for Jaden Daniels. But
yeah.
I actually really do like the Odafe Oweh signing for them.
For sure.
Maybe a bit of an overpay, but again, looking at what the edge market was, I mean, once Phillips went for $30 million, that was kind of like the opening of the floodgates.
That's the market, yeah.
Yeah, at $25 million, I actually do like this. He was actually a huge part of a Ravens team that just missed the playoffs.
Yeah,
much like Draymond Jones was, but a guy that I always kind of liked, to believe a Michigan guy. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll forgive him for that. We'll forgive him for being a Wolverine, I guess.
That's not very left hand up, you Kenny. Not very left hand up. I'm being perfectly honest. But who have they all lost? I believe Von Miller's no longer there, as far as I know.
I don't think so, but I'm not sure where he's ending up either.
Oh no, he actually is still there.
Really?
The only major couple losses they had were Biadaz, who went to the Chargers, Jake Martin, linebacker, who went to the Titans on a 2-year deal worth about $11 million. They lost Jonathan Jones, Patriots icon, unironically, who went to the Eagles. And also Chris Rodriguez, who went to the Jags. I'm trying to think, is there any other team that you wanted to talk about here? I'm trying to think.
Just the Vikings continue to make terrible moves at quarterback, signing Kyler Murray. So their in-house Call of Duty team is going to be much better, but their quarterback room got significantly worse, in my opinion.
I love the idea of an intramural NFL Call of Duty team like an esports league.
I think that's the only reason why you signed Kyler Murray at this point, right? Like, what else are you doing?
The NFL presents Major League Gaming.
Right.
Listen,
I want some incentives for that deal, though. Like, if that actually becomes a thing, I want that. I want some credit for that. That's my idea.
Roger Goodell, we want some royalties. I'm trying to think elsewhere.
The Cardinals got better because they got rid of Murray. So
yeah, Howie Roseman, please just give us AJ Brown. Like, let's cut out the middleman. This trade's happening no matter what. Let's just cut out the middleman. We'll give you a 2 and a 4 for him right now.
Good luck.
I'm trying to think what else. One thing that I'm surprised hasn't happened yet, because it's gonna have to happen. It's gonna have to happen sooner or later. The Seahawks trading for a running back, that has to happen at some point.
Yeah, it does. It really does. You either have to trade or you have to hope to strike it in the draft, which I'm not as keen on the running backs in this draft as I was in last year or even the year before that. So good luck, Seattle. You guys need a running back quickly, and I don't know. That market's already dried up, and you're gonna have to make a move on that one. So, good luck. Yeah,
I would not be surprised. Like, Keaton Mitchell would be like a perfect move, unless he's been traded already, which is 100% possible. I just missed it. But yeah, again, of course, like there's 100% gonna be a running back that this appears out of thin air, like the 6th round that they'll draft. He'll get like 800 yards.
Yeah,
they're waiting
which
for
will do the trick, but they're not getting the kid out of Notre Dame, either kid out of Notre Dame. So there's that. I think a team that is losing in the free agency market but winning in the uniform market are the Tennessee Titans. Good for them.
I totally forgot about this. Yeah, the asset.
They got their powder blues back. Good job. Beautiful.
I
Um,
was in the group chat with the fellas the other night. We were talking. Not a big fan of the logo. The uniforms are incredible. Incredible.
Incredible uniforms. I can live with the logo because we've gotten back to a white lid. And anybody that's watched the program before, I'm not the biggest fan of white lids on football teams. There's two teams that need to have white lids, and that's the Tennessee Titans and the Miami Dolphins. Past that, I think you can make an argument that nobody else needs a white lid, but the Titans coming back to it is a thing of beauty. I'm all for it. Those powder blue jerseys are first on my list once they get released into the wild. So good on them. I just need a player.
If I'm not mistaken, Ken, I believe the Titans are also going to be getting some rivalry uniforms down the line this year, if I'm not mistaken. Because I believe this year it's the AFC South and the NFC North.
NFC North. Yep. NFC North. And the rumor is the Bears are getting the polar bear uniforms this year. We're getting all whites, supposedly. So we'll see how that plays. But yeah.
Also 3 weeks away from the Falcons getting their new uniforms.
Yeah. They teased that. They teased that last week or earlier this week. Not a little surprised that they keep throwing out their current weird looking Falcon logo. I want a full rebrand. I want to go back to the 80s and 90s. Red and black with silver pants and
red helmets,
numbers, red helmets. Yeah, we need to go back to the old school Falcons logo.
That goes for you too, Buffalo. Red helmets.
Yes.
Restore the feeling.
No more white lids for you guys, Buffalo. You guys need to bring back the red lids for sure.
Them waiting until week 18 to bring those back is diabolical.
I was so devastated. That was so hyped up for that, and then we didn't really come to fruition as much as I thought it would. And yeah, so here we are.
But 3 more weeks for those. Nevertheless, though, we do thank you guys for joining us this week. Like and subscribe if you're on the YouTube gimmick. Helps us out in the algo. And we will see you guys next week. And sending you out once again, as always, is our card guy.